My brother told my 8-year-old daughter that the legal document was just a birthday card for Grandma. She signed it. He transferred her entire $280,000 trust fund into his account and bought a boat. When my lawyer found out, he didn't panic. He smiled and said the signature was. My brother went pale. The conference room at Sterling and Associates had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday in October, and I watched my brother's face drain of color as Michael Chin, my attorney, spread 3 documents across the mahogany table. My daughter sat beside me, swinging her legs, oblivious to the fact that she'd just become the center of a $280,000 legal battlefield. The air conditioning hummed. Someone's coffee had gone cold. And my brother, who 20 minutes earlier had walked in wearing a $4,000 Brioni suit and his new Rolex, now gripped the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Let me tell you how we got here. My brother David and I grew up in Bellevue, in one of those families where success was expected and failure wasn't discussed, it was simply erased. Our father built a commercial real estate portfolio worth $3.2 million by the time I was in high school. Our mother came from old Seattle money, the kind that came with a last name people recognized and a trust fund she never talked about but everyone knew existed. David was the golden child from birth. Literally. Mom had his newborn photos professionally framed in actual gold leaf. I was born 3 years later, and by then the novelty had apparently worn off. When David graduated from University of Washington in 2009 with a business degree, Dad gave him a $50,000 startup fund and a position in the family company. When I graduated from the same school in 2012 with a finance degree and a 3.8 GPA, Dad took me to dinner at Canlis and told me he was so proud, but that there wasn't really a position available right now. David got the corner office. I got a handshake and advice to find my own path. I found it. Just not the one they expected. On March 15, 2013, I started as a junior analyst at Merrill Lynch, making $47,000 a year. It wasn't glamorous. I shared a 1-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill with a roommate who sold essential oils and left crystals on every surface. But I was good at my job. Really good. By November 2014, I'd been promoted to associate with a salary of $68,000. By April 2016, I was a senior analyst making $95,000. I didn't tell my family about the promotions. When they asked what I was doing, I said, still in finance, you know how it is. They heard what they wanted to hear, that I was still struggling. At Thanksgiving 2015, my mother asked if I needed money. Your father, and I know those entry-level positions don't pay much, sweetheart. I was making $71,000 at that point. I smiled and said, I'm managing fine. She patted my hand and slipped me a check for $500. I deposited it. Used it to buy my first share of Microsoft stock. In June 2016, David married Vanessa Chen in a wedding that cost $180,000. He asked Dad for help with the down payment on a house in Medina, $125,000. Dad wrote the check the same day. That Christmas, I mentioned I was thinking about buying a condo. In this market, my mother said. Oh honey, maybe wait until you're more established. I'd already been pre-approved for a $400,000 mortgage. I bought the place in Fremont 3 weeks later. 1 bedroom, 850 square feet, $385,000. I paid 20% down from my savings. Never mentioned it. They thought I was still renting in Capitol Hill. My daughter Emma was born in March 2018. Her father, James, was a software engineer at Amazon. Good man. Good father. Terrible husband. We divorced in 2020, joint custody, everything amicable. What wasn't amicable was my family's reaction. We'll help however we can, my mother said, and I knew what she meant. They'd help because they assumed I couldn't manage alone. David offered to let me move into their guest house until I got back on my feet. I was making $134,000 a year by then. I'd been managing just fine. But when my father's mother, Emma's great-grandmother, died in August 2020, that's when everything shifted. Grandma Helen had money, Real money. A trust fund from her own family's timber fortune, managed conservatively for 70 years, now worth $840,000. Her will was simple, split between her 2 grandchildren, David and me, for $120,000 each. Except there was one additional provision. Each grandchild was to establish a trust fund for any great-grandchildren, with $140,000 designated for each child. David had 2 kids by then. I had Emma. That was 3 trust funds, $140,000 for David's son Nathan, $140,000 for David's daughter Sophie, and $140,000 for Emma. The remaining funds, $420,000, would be split between David and me, $210,000 each. The trusts for the great-grandchildren were irrevocable, managed by First National Bank. The kids couldn't touch them until they turned 25, but they could receive distributions for education, healthcare, and housing at the discretion of their parent or legal guardian. Each account grew at roughly 6% annually. By October 2024, Emma's trust had grown to $280,000. David's inheritance, his $210,000, was gone by 2022. I'd heard through Mom that he'd invested in a friend's cryptocurrency startup. The friend disappeared. The money disappeared. Vanessa left him in January 2023, took the kids and the house in the divorce. David moved into a condo in Kirkland and started driving for Uber on weekends to supplement his salary at Dad's company. My $210,000 went straight into a diversified portfolio. By 2024, it was worth $340,000. Plus, I'd been promoted again in 2021 to Vice President of Client Relations at a different firm, Garrison Financial Group, making $167,000 annually. I'd sold the Fremont condo in 2022 for $515,000, bought a 3-bedroom house in Ballard for $680,000, and had $120,000 in equity, none of which my family knew about. To them, I was still figuring things out as a single mom doing her best. And I let them think it. Because every time I'd tried to share good news, a promotion, a bonus, a professional achievement, the conversation shifted. David would mention his latest deal. Mom would bring up some family friend's daughter who'd just made partner somewhere impressive. My accomplishments became footnotes in other people's success stories. So I stopped sharing. But I didn't stop building. Between 2020 and 2024, I met with 3 different estate attorneys. The first one, Patricia Gomez at Whitman Legal, reviewed Grandma Helen's trust documents in detail. "These are airtight," she said. "Your daughter's trust is protected. No one can touch it without proper legal authority and documentation." She charged me $850 for the consultation. Money well spent. The second attorney, Richard Kowalski, I consulted in April 2023 when David first started asking questions about Emma's trust. Could she access it for a medical emergency? He'd asked at Easter dinner. I'd said, I suppose, if necessary. He'd nodded, looked thoughtful, changed the subject. 2 days later, I called Kowalski. If someone tried to fraudulently access a minor's trust fund, what would the consequences be? He explained, wire fraud, theft, potential criminal charges, civil liability. It would be financial suicide, he said. Cost of consultation, $425. The third attorney was Michael Chin. I found him in January 2024 through a colleague at Garrison. Michael specialized in trust litigation and fraud cases. We met for coffee at Storyville on Pike Street on January 18th. I explained my family situation. My brother's financial problems. The growing questions about Emma's trust. I don't have proof of anything, I said. Just a feeling. Trust your gut, Michael said. People get desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. And when they make mistakes with trust funds, the law is very clear. I paid him a $5,000 retainer. Just in case. On March 3, 2024, David called me. Hey, I'm helping Mom organize her birthday party. Can you bring Emma by this weekend? She wants to make Grandma a card. Mom's birthday is in June, I said. Early planning, David said. Too quickly. You know how she is. I didn't go. On April 12th, my mother called. David mentioned you're too busy to help with family things lately. I'm happy to help, I said. What does she need? Oh, he said he already asked you. Never mind. I called David that night. What did you tell Mom you asked me to help with? Nothing. Just seeing if Emma wanted to come hang out with her cousins sometime. The room got quieter in my head. Something was wrong. I called Michael Chin the next morning. Start documenting everything, he said. Every call, every text, every request. Dates, times, exact words if you can remember them. And check Emma's trust account. Call the bank. Verify everything is where it should be. I called First National Bank at 10:15 a.m. on April 13th, spoke to a trust officer named Margaret Wallace. I'd like to verify the current balance and recent activity on my daughter's trust account. One moment. Keys clicking. Account ending in 7734. Current balance as of this morning is $278,450. Last distribution was in September 2023 for $12,000, approved distribution for private school tuition. Before that, no activity since the account was established. And there's no way someone could access it without my signature? Absolutely not. You're listed as the primary guardian and trustee. Any distribution requires your written authorization, notarized, with supporting documentation. We take these very seriously. What if someone had a document that looked like it was signed by the minor? Pause. That would be meaningless. Minors can't authorize distributions from their own trust funds. It's legally impossible. If someone presented such a document, we'd immediately flag it as potential fraud. I thanked her. Hung up. Sat at my desk at Garrison for 4 full minutes, staring at my computer screen. David was planning something. I didn't know what yet, but I knew. For the next 3 months, I prepared. I didn't know that same week, David was meeting with someone he described to friends as a financial consultant. Later, I'd learn it was his former college roommate who'd been disbarred for ethics violations and was now calling himself an asset recovery specialist. I compiled every document related to Emma's trust. The original will. The trust establishment documents. Every quarterly statement from First National. Every email exchange with the bank. I created a digital folder and a physical folder, both organized chronologically. I made copies. Stored them in 3 separate locations: my house, my office, and Michael's office. On May 8th, David texted, "Emma's birthday coming up. Want to do something with the whole family." Emma's birthday was in March. It had already passed. "We already celebrated," I texted back. Right. Well, anytime. The kids miss each other. They'd seen each other 2 weeks earlier at my parents' anniversary party. I didn't respond. On June 20th, my mother called. "Your brother is going through such a hard time. The divorce, the money troubles. I wish you two were closer. We talk regularly," I said. "He says you're very busy. Too busy for family lately." There it was. The setup. Whatever David was planning, he was laying groundwork. Making me seem distant. Unreachable. Too busy to notice things. I'm never too busy for family, Mom. Good. Because we're all getting together on July 4th weekend. Your father wants everyone there. July 4th, 2024. I marked it on my calendar. Called Michael Chin that afternoon. "Something's coming," I said. "Then we'll be ready," he said. I didn't know that while I was preparing, David had already made his first attempt. On June 28th, he'd gone to First National Bank with a document. The trust officer, not Margaret Wallace, but a newer employee named Justin Chin, later testified that David presented what appeared to be a notarized letter from me authorizing a $50,000 distribution for Emma's educational expenses abroad. The letter had a signature that looked vaguely like mine. Justin, following protocol, asked for my identification and contact information to verify. David said I was traveling internationally and unreachable. Justin, correctly, said that was impossible. International travel or not, the bank required direct contact with the guardian before releasing funds. He kept a copy of the document. Filed it. Called his supervisor. Who called Margaret Wallace. Who called me at 4:47 p.m. on June 28th, Mrs. Morrison, we need to discuss an incident that occurred today. I was at Emma's soccer practice. Moved to my car. What happened? She explained. The document. The attempted withdrawal. David's story. That signature isn't mine, I said. I never authorized anything. I'm not traveling. I'm in Seattle. We know. That's why we called. We've flagged your brother's name in our system. Any future contact from him regarding this account will be immediately reported to you and our fraud department. Thank you. Mrs. Morrison? You should speak to an attorney. This was an attempted theft. A serious one. I have an attorney. I'll call him now. I did. Michael Chin listened. Asked 3 questions. Said, don't confront your brother. Not yet. Let him think it worked or that you don't know. We're waiting to see what he does next. And if he tries again? Then we have a pattern. And patterns are prosecutable. July 4th weekend arrived. My parents hosted their annual barbecue at their home in Bellevue. 73 people attended. The weather was perfect. 82 degrees, clear skies, my father's pride and joy, the deck he'd built himself in 1998, packed with family and friends. David arrived at 2:15 p.m., wearing khakis and a polo shirt that looked expensive, but that I recognized from Nordstrom Rack because I'd seen it on the clearance table 3 weeks earlier. He hugged Emma. Asked her about school, about soccer, about her friends. Played the good uncle. Brought her a present, a set of art supplies, $40 worth from Target. At 5:30 p.m., he found me in the kitchen. Can we talk? Of course. We stepped onto the side patio. Empty. Private. I need to ask you something, he said. About Emma's trust. Okay. I've been thinking. She's 8. That money is just sitting there. What if we invested it? Really invested it? I know a guy. No. You didn't let me finish. I don't need to hear the rest. The answer is no. His jaw tightened. You don't even know what I was going to say. You were going to say you have an investment opportunity. That Emma's trust fund could grow faster. That you'd manage it, take care of everything, and we'd all benefit. Did I miss anything? He stared at me. I'm trying to help. Emma's trust is fine where it is. It's grown by what, 60,000 in 4 years? That's barely keeping up with inflation. I could double it in 18 months. Like you doubled your inheritance? His face flushed. That was different. That was lost to fraud because you trusted the wrong person. I know. Mom told me. I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for Emma. She's my niece. I want what's best for her. Then you'll be happy to know that her trust is being managed by professionals who have a fiduciary duty to protect it. It's fine. I walked back inside. My hands had started shaking. Not from fear. From anger. From the audacity of him asking directly after already trying to steal from it. That night, I called Michael. Told him about the conversation. He's getting desperate, Michael said. Desperate enough to ask directly even after the bank turned him away. Which means he's going to try something else. Like what? I don't know. But I'm going to file a protective order with the court. Nothing public. Just a legal flag in the system that alerts us if anyone tries to access Emma's trust through any channel, bank, court, legal filing, anything. He filed it on July 8th. Cost $1,250 in legal fees. On July 19th, the flag triggered. Michael called me at 11:32 a.m. I was in a meeting at Garrison. Stepped out. Someone filed paperwork with King County Superior Court this morning, he said. A petition for emergency guardianship of Emma, claiming you're mentally unstable and financially irresponsible and requesting temporary control of her assets during the proceedings. My vision went dark at the edges. What? The petition was filed by David Morrison, your brother. On what grounds? He claims you've been erratic, making poor financial decisions, and that Emma has expressed concern about her home environment. He's requesting an emergency hearing. Emma is 8. She's never expressed any such thing. This is insane. I know, which is why it's not going to work. But we need to respond immediately. Can you come to my office today? I was there by 1 p.m. Michael had the petition printed out. 6 pages of lies. David claimed I'd been fired from my job false. That I was behind on my mortgage false. That Emma had told him she was scared of me false and vile. He's doing this to get control of her trust, I said. Yes. And it's going to backfire spectacularly. We filed a response by 5 p.m. My employment verification from Garrison Financial. My mortgage statements showing I was current, with $140,000 in equity. A letter from Emma's pediatrician stating she was healthy, well cared for, and showed no signs of distress. A letter from her school principal saying she was thriving academically and socially. The hearing was scheduled for July 30th, Judge Patricia Hendricks presiding. But between July 19th and July 30th, something else happened. On July 24th, Emma came home from a visit with my parents and said, "Uncle David showed me something cool today." "What's that, honey?" "He said Grandma's birthday is coming and we should make her a really special card. He had this fancy paper and everything. I signed my name in cursive like you taught me. Every cell in my body went cold." "What kind of paper?" "Just paper. But it was thick. Like fancy paper. He said it would make Grandma really happy." "Did you read what was on the paper?" "No. It was grown-up words. He said just to sign my name at the bottom, and he'd write the message later." I kept my voice calm. "Okay, sweetie. That was nice of you to do something for Grandma. She went to play in her room. I went to my bedroom. Called Michael. He had her sign something," I said. "What?" I explained. Every word Emma had said. "Jesus," Michael said. "Okay. Here's what we do. Tomorrow, you take Emma to your attorney's office, my office, and we have her make a sworn statement about what happened. Age appropriate, nothing scary. Just what she remembers. We document it now, before he can use whatever he had her sign." We did exactly that. July 25th, 3 p.m., Emma sat in Michael's office with a child advocate present and told the same story. The thick paper. Uncle David saying it was for Grandma's birthday. Signing her name in cursive. She'd practiced cursive for months and was proud of it. Michael video recorded it. Had it transcribed. Emma thought she was helping her lawyer friend understand something about her nice uncle. "Do you like your Uncle David?" the child advocate asked. "He's okay. He gives good presents." "Did he tell you not to tell anyone about signing the paper?" Emma thought about it. "No. He just said it was a surprise for Grandma. We had it all documented." July 30th. The guardianship hearing. King County Superior Court, Judge Patricia Hendricks presiding. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling. Fluorescent lights. About 15 rows of benches, mostly empty. David sat at the petitioner's table with an attorney I didn't recognize. Later I learned he'd found him on Craigslist, someone who'd take the case for $800. Michael and I sat at the respondent's table. Judge Hendricks was 62, gray hair pulled back severely, reading glasses on a chain. She reviewed the petition. Looked up. "Mr. Morrison, your petition alleges your sister is unfit to manage her daughter's affairs and that emergency intervention is necessary. You're asking for temporary guardianship and control of the minor child's assets. That's an extraordinarily serious request." David's attorney stood. "Yes, Your Honor. My client has serious concerns about." "I'm asking your client." "Mr. Morrison, please stand and explain to me, in your own words, why you believe your sister is unfit." David stood, tugged at his tie. "Your Honor, my sister has been struggling since her divorce. Financially and emotionally. She's been erratic. Missing family events. My niece has expressed concerns to me about their living situation." "What specific concerns?" "That they might lose their home. That there isn't enough money for things she needs." "And you determined this required emergency intervention?" "Yes, Your Honor. I'm worried about my niece's well-being." Judge Hendricks looked at Michael. "Counsel." Michael stood. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit evidence that directly contradicts every claim in the petition." He handed a folder to the bailiff, who gave it to the judge. She opened it. "Read." Looked up. "These are employment records showing the respondent earns $167,000 annually and has been continuously employed for 12 years. Mortgage statements showing she owns her home with substantial equity. Letters from the child's pediatrician and school. Nothing here suggests instability." "That's correct, Your Honor," Michael said. Judge Hendricks looked at David. Mr. Morrison, did you verify any of your claims before filing this petition? My sister told me she was struggling. When? I don't remember exactly. Your petition states she was fired from her job. Do you have evidence of that? No, but I assumed. You assumed. Did you ask her directly? No, Your Honor. Did you visit her home to assess these alleged unsafe conditions? Not recently, but... So you filed an emergency petition for guardianship, requesting control of a child's substantial trust fund, based on assumptions and no actual evidence. David's attorney jumped in. Your Honor, my client is acting in good faith. Good faith requires facts, counsel. I see none here. She looked at Michael. Does the respondent have anything else to add? Actually, Your Honor, yes. We'd like to address an incident that occurred on July 24th, 6 days ago. Michael explained. The visit to my parents' house. David having Emma sign a document under the pretense it was a birthday card. Emma's statement recorded and transcribed. Judge Hendricks's expression darkened. You're alleging the petitioner obtained a minor's signature under false pretenses? We have the child's sworn statement, Your Honor. And we believe Mr. Morrison attempted to use that signature to access the trust fund. Your Honor, that's absurd, David's attorney said. My client would never. Be quiet. Judge Hendricks looked at David. Mr. Morrison, did you have the child sign a document on July 24th? David went pale. Actually pale. The color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. We were just making a card for my mother. A card that required a formal signature in cursive? She wanted to practice her cursive. On what type of paper? Just paper. Do you still have this birthday card? Silence. Mr. Morrison? No. I haven't finished it yet. Judge Hendricks removed her glasses. Here's what I think happened. I think you're in financial trouble. I think you saw your niece's trust fund as a solution. I think you tried to access it through the bank and were rejected. So you filed this frivolous guardianship petition, and when you realized it might not work, you attempted to obtain the child's signature on a document you planned to use to fraudulently access her funds. Your Honor, that's not. I'm not finished. This petition is denied. Dismissed with prejudice, meaning you cannot refile. I'm also issuing a restraining order preventing you from any contact with the minor child or any involvement with her financial affairs. And I'm referring this matter to the King County Prosecutor's Office for investigation of potential fraud. The hearing was over. 16 minutes, start to finish. David sat frozen at his table. His attorney gathered papers with shaking hands. Michael and I stood. Mrs. Morrison, Judge Hendricks said. I'm sorry you had to deal with this. Thank you, Your Honor. We walked out. David stayed seated. Didn't move. Didn't look at us. But it wasn't over. On August 2nd, Margaret Wallace from First National Bank called me. Mrs. Morrison, we need you to come to the bank immediately. There's been an incident. I was there in 20 minutes. Margaret's office. Door closed. Yesterday afternoon, a man presented a document at our downtown branch claiming to be authorized to transfer funds from your daughter's trust account. My stomach dropped. David. No. A man named Robert Kelso. He had what appeared to be a notarized authorization with your signature and Emma's signature, requesting the transfer of $280,000 to an account at Pacific Northwest Bank. That's not my signature. I never authorized anything. We know. The teller followed protocol, asked for identification, called us here at the trust department. We compared the signature to the one on file. It wasn't even close. We also noted that Emma's signature matched exactly the one from the previous fraudulent attempt in June. What happened to this Robert Kelso? He's being detained by Seattle police. They're questioning him now. We've filed a formal complaint. The FBI may get involved because it crosses state lines. The Pacific Northwest Bank account was in Oregon. Oregon. Registered to a David Morrison. Of course it was. That afternoon, Michael Chin filed a lawsuit. Civil fraud. Theft by deception. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. We sued David for $840,000, 3 times the amount of Emma's trust, which was the maximum allowed under Washington law for punitive damages in fraud cases. On August 15, Robert Kelso, David's former college roommate, the disbarred attorney, agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. He provided emails, text messages, and recorded phone calls showing that David had paid him $5,000 to impersonate a bank official and attempt the withdrawal. That David had created the fake authorization document. That David had practiced forging my signature for weeks. The criminal charges came fast after that. Wire fraud, attempted theft, identity theft, forgery. The King County prosecutor assigned a senior attorney, Michelle Park, who'd built her career on white-collar crime. The civil case moved slower but steadily. Discovery. Depositions. David's finances were laid bare in court filings. He had $11,400 in a checking account. $0 in savings. A car worth maybe $8,000. No property. No investments. He'd been borrowing money from my parents for rent. On September 23, 2024, my parents called a family meeting. Just the 4 of us, Mom, Dad, David, and me. At their house. 6 p.m. I brought Michael. This is a legal matter now, I told my mother on the phone. My attorney will be present. She didn't argue. We sat in the living room I'd grown up in. The same furniture. The same family photos on the walls. David and me at ages 5 and 8, gap-toothed and sunburned from a summer vacation. High school graduation photos. Wedding photos. My father spoke first. We need to resolve this as a family. This isn't a family matter, I said. It's a criminal matter. Your brother made a mistake. He tried to steal from his 8-year-old niece. Multiple times. Using fraud and forgery. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. David sat on the couch, head in his hands. He'd lost weight. The expensive clothes were gone. Jeans and a Seahawks t-shirt. He's desperate, my mother said. The divorce destroyed him. He's not thinking clearly. Being desperate doesn't give him the right to commit fraud. What do you want? My father asked. You want him to go to prison? He's your brother. I want him to face consequences for what he did. We'll pay you back, my father said. Whatever he tried to take, we'll make it right. You can't make this right. He didn't just try to steal money. He manipulated Emma. He used her innocence against her. He made her think she was signing a birthday card for her grandmother. My mother flinched. He attempted identity theft, wire fraud, and forgery. Those are federal crimes. The FBI is involved now. The King County prosecutor wants him in prison. And honestly, I looked at David. He deserves it. David looked up. Red eyes. I'm sorry. You're sorry you got caught. I'm sorry I hurt Emma. I never meant. You meant exactly what happened. You planned it. You practiced my signature. You paid someone to help you. You knew what you were doing every step of the way. Silence. My father tried again. What will it take to settle this? Dad, I'm not the one prosecuting him. The state is. I can't drop criminal charges. But the civil suit. Your lawsuit. $840,000 plus legal fees. My mother gasped. We don't have that kind of money. Then he'll declare bankruptcy. And when he does, it won't discharge the judgment because fraud debt isn't dischargeable. It'll follow him for the rest of his life. Every paycheck garnished. Every asset seized. Every financial decision haunted by what he did. You'd do that to your own brother? My father asked. He did this to himself. We left 20 minutes later. Nothing resolved. Nothing forgiven. The criminal trial began in November 2024. King County Superior Court. Judge Raymond Shen presiding, no relation to my attorney, just coincidence. The prosecutor, Michelle Park, was methodical. Every email. Every text. Every attempt. Every lie. She presented the bank records showing David's failed attempt in June. The guardianship petition and Judge Hendricks's scathing dismissal. Emma's recorded statement about signing the birthday card. Robert Kelso's testimony describing David's exact instructions. Get the money, transfer it immediately, we split it 60-40. The defense attorney David had upgraded from the Craigslist lawyer, Now had someone my parents were paying $15,000 for tried to argue diminished capacity due to emotional distress from the divorce. Judge Chin wasn't buying it. The defendant planned these actions over months, he said. Multiple attempts, multiple methods, involvement of accomplices. This isn't impaired judgment. This is calculated fraud. On November 19, 2024, the jury took 4 hours to convict David Morrison on all counts. Wire fraud, attempted theft in the first degree, identity theft, forgery, criminal solicitation. Sentencing was scheduled for January 2025. Before then, we had to deal with the civil case. December 10, 2024. Settlement conference. Federal mediation, non-binding. David, his attorney, my parents, Michael, and me in a conference room at the U.S. District Court. The mediator, a retired judge named Arthur Walsh, was direct. Mr. Morrison, you're facing significant prison time and a civil judgment you cannot pay. Mrs. Morrison, you're facing years of litigation to collect on a judgment against someone with no assets. Neither of you wins if this continues. What do you suggest? Michael asked. Mr. Morrison declares bankruptcy. Mrs. Morrison accepts a structured settlement from the parents to cover legal fees and a trust protection fund. Mr. Morrison agrees to a lifetime restraining order preventing any contact with the child or involvement with any family trusts. Criminal sentencing recommendation of restitution plus probation instead of maximum prison time. I looked at my parents. My father looked old suddenly. 71 but looked 80. My mother was crying quietly. How much would the settlement be? I asked. $150,000. Paid over 5 years. Covers your legal fees and establishes a protection fund that would cover any future litigation if Mr. Morrison ever violates the restraining order. I looked at Michael. He nodded slightly. I want one more thing, I said. What's that? Walsh asked. I looked at David. I want him to admit, on the record, exactly what he did and why. David's attorney started to object. David held up his hand. I'll do it. We reconvened with a court reporter. David, under oath, gave his statement. I attempted to steal my niece's trust fund because I was broke and desperate. I forged my sister's signature multiple times. I manipulated Emma into signing documents under false pretenses. I paid Robert Kelso to help me commit fraud. I filed false petitions in court. I lied to my family, to the bank, and to the court. I did all of this knowing it was wrong, knowing it was illegal, and not caring because I wanted the money. I hurt my niece, betrayed my sister's trust, and destroyed my relationship with my family. I accept full responsibility. The statement was 17 minutes long. Every detail. Every lie. All of it on the record. We settled. January 14, 2025. David was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison plus 3 years probation. Restitution of $48,000, his estimated legal costs imposed on the system. Lifetime restraining order against Emma and any involvement with family trusts. My parents paid the first installment of the settlement, $30,000. David reported to FCI Sheridan in Oregon on February 1, 2025. He's still there. Release date, July 2026. My parents paid the second settlement installment in June 2025. $30,000. On time. We haven't spoken since the sentencing. They chose David's side even after everything. Even after the conviction, the confession, the proof. Blood is thicker than truth in our family, apparently. Emma asked about Uncle David once. Why doesn't he come to our house anymore? Uncle David made some bad choices and has to face consequences for them. What kind of bad choices? Choices that hurt people. That's all you need to know right now. She accepted that. 8-year-olds are resilient like that. My civil judgment stands, $840,000 plus $73,000 in legal fees. David will never pay it. But it exists. A permanent mark on his financial record. Every background check, every credit application, every job that requires financial disclosure. It'll be there. Emma's trust is protected now with additional legal safeguards. New trustees added, 2 professionals from First National plus Michael Chin. Any distribution requires unanimous approval. Any suspicious activity triggers immediate legal review. The trust has grown to $295,000 as of December 2024. I sold the Ballard House in August 2025 for $785,000. Bought a place in Magnolia for $920,000. For bedrooms, view of Puget Sound. Emma has her own bathroom and a room for art projects. I got promoted again in April 2025, Senior Vice President at Garrison Financial, salary now $198,000. My parents don't know about any of it. For 7 months, everything was quiet. My life rebuilt itself. Emma thrived in 3rd grade. Made the advanced math group. Scored 2 goals in soccer. Asked for a cat. We got a cat. Then yesterday, my lawyer called. David's attorney filed a motion to modify the restraining order, Michael said. I was making dinner. Put down the knife. On what grounds? He claims he's rehabilitated. That the distance from Emma is causing him psychological harm. That he's her uncle and has a right to family contact. He confessed. He was convicted. He went to prison. I know. And the motion will be denied. But there's something else. What? The motion includes a request for mediation regarding Emma's trust. He claims the additional safeguards we put in place are excessive and vindictive, and that he should have input on her financial future as her uncle. I felt my blood pressure spike. He's in prison. I know. He has a restraining order. I know. He confessed to trying to steal from her. I know. Which is why Judge Hendricks will deny this without a hearing. But Morgan. What? He's planning something. This motion is a distraction. People don't file motions like this from federal prison unless they're building towards something bigger. I hung up. Opened my safe. The one in my bedroom closet, behind the winter coats. Inside, copies of every document from the case. Every email. Every text. Every statement. And one thing Michael didn't know about yet. On August 2nd, 2024, when I was at First National Bank and Margaret Wallace told me about Robert Kelso's attempt with the forged document, I did something. Something I haven't told anyone yet. I requested copies of the bank's security footage from every one of David's visits. June 28th when he first tried. July 24th when he was at my parents' house with Emma, my father's home security system caught it, and I got a copy from their system. Every interaction. Every lie. I had it all digitally archived. And I had something else. A recording from July 3rd, 2024. The day before the big family barbecue. David had called me. Asked again about Emma's trust. I'd recorded the call. Washington is a 2-party consent state, but I'd said clearly at the beginning, hey, I'm recording this because I want to remember what we talked about. Is that okay? He'd said yes. Didn't think anything of it. On that recording, David said, that money is family money. Grandma would want it used to help the family, not just sit in some bank. If you won't invest it properly, I will. I'd said, it's Emma's money, not family money. Emma's 8. She doesn't need $280,000. I need it. Dad's company is struggling. I could invest it there, save the family business, and Emma would get it all back plus more when she's older. No, you're being selfish. This could help everyone. That recording, plus the security footage, plus the documented lies to the bank, plus Robert Kelso's cooperation, plus David's own confession, I had everything. Michael called back 20 minutes later. I filed a response to David's motion. It'll be denied within 48 hours. But I want you prepared. If he's planning something bigger, we need to know what. I didn't tell him about the recording yet. Because I realized something sitting there in my kitchen with my daughter in the next room practicing piano, and my cat asleep on the couch, and my house paid for, and my career flourishing, and my life finally mine. David wasn't done. He wouldn't be done until he either got what he wanted or destroyed himself trying. And I'd been waiting for this. So, what do you think? Did my brother go too far, or was I too harsh? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for updates on what happens when David gets out of prison.